Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about the most disappointing books that I have read in 21. Be prepared to hate me maybe a little bit by the end of this video, but this is part of my end of the year book series, which I will be linking all the videos down below as they go up. So basically the best, the worst, the most surprising, and the most disappointing books that I have read throughout the year. Enjoy, because there's going to be a little bit of ranting here. So disappointing books, by that I mean that I thought I was going to love these at least 5 stars. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. Some of these I still overall enjoyed, it's just that I thought I was going to love and I didn't. So with that in mind, Project Helmery by Andy Weir. Give me a second. I love his stuff. I love The Martian, perfect audiobook also. I even love the movie, even though I can't stand Matt Damon's face. So really big fan, although we are forgetting that Artemis exists, his female characters sucked. So he's back to writing from a male point of view. And I overall enjoyed the character. I enjoyed the science, I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed the friendship, keeping it vague, and I'm even satisfied with the way the book ended, which I tend to be kind of picky with endings, but I thought this one was well done. With that said, I felt like the story felt very saccadé. My brain is on French mode. Let me actually Google that. Jerky? That's not the word. Choppy. There you go. So it felt very, very choppy. And if I compare it to The Martian, you know how the main character is trying to survive in space, which is still the case here. And there's still a goal, and like I feel like the story is still advancing, even though things pop up and he has to fix them with science, which super fun. It still felt like it was going somewhere. And I feel like with this one, every time something would happen, I feel like the whole story would be put on pause, and then he would fix it, sometimes kind of easily. I know the stakes were still high, but still. And then we would like have something else and something else and something else. And it just felt kind of exhausting towards the end because of that. So I felt like it affected my enjoyment, and I expected a little bit better with that. However, I don't think it's a bad book. It's still very, very popular. I might have actually the unpopular opinion here, so feel free to disagree politely in the comment section if you want. But yes, for me, I thought this was going to be 5 stars, and it was like a 3.5, 3.75, so not terrible, just not what I wanted it to be. Speaking of which, that one will hurt. Princess Bride. Okay, bear with me for a second. I did not grow up having this book read to me. I didn't grow up watching the movie. I still have yet to watch the movie as an adult. So I think it probably plays into it because I went into it knowing nothing about the story. Like, I mean, nothing. And I was extremely confused about like double narration, I guess you can call it. Still to this day, not sure what was going on with that. I feel like it probably makes more sense from what I've heard with the movie. So maybe one day I will bite a bullet and do it, but I don't really care for old movies, but feel free again to convince me in the comment section. I enjoyed the main story. And I feel like if you had cut off everything else and kept like the 100 pages of like a novella size of book, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. It does read a little bit like a children's book, which is meant to be, but I still thought that was the best part, and the rest kind of just, I had no interest in it, and it felt confusing, and I just don't have much more else to say. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be, which again, didn't know anything, but for some reason. So yeah, I had been looking forward to reading that book for years. I tend to do that. I keep books that I think I'm gonna give 5 stars to on my shelves for when days when I really need them, and I did that mistake with this one, so I feel like it probably played into my not so enjoyment of it. So yes, definitely an unpopular opinion with that one, but it's the truth. Might reassure a few people that also did enjoy it, you know? Ooh, that one hurt my feelings a lot. Sunderland Essence, which we actually read for the Patreon book club earlier this year, and a lot of us had been looking forward to reading this adult fantasy book. It has a lot of hype, and I feel like the opinions were fairly divided, a lot more than anything else that we have read, and I didn't care for it. I think it didn't really start super well because of the main trope, which I think it's called Woman in the Fridge, which not a fan of that one. Basically, something horrible happens to a female character in order for the male character to start his journey, which kind of In this book, you're following Senlin on his honeymoon. He basically just got married to a much younger wife who used to be a student. And then the day they arrive to explore the Tower of Babel, whatever, his wife is kidnapped, disappeared, and he has to become a lot less of a pushover to find her. So I wasn't really happy from the beginning, but the book definitely was redeeming itself. He's basically like going up the tower to try and find her. And level 2 was really cool. I thought it was really creative, it was unique, it was kind of shocking, and I overall enjoyed it, and I thought the book was going to be great. And then level 3 happened, and I lost complete interest, which everyone seemed to struggle with level 3. And then for a lot of people, level 4 made things better. Not for me. At that point, I was just not emotionally invested whatsoever, didn't care about the story anymore, and I just forgot that it was actually going to be a series of 4 books, and I was hoping it would be done by the end of that one short book. It's not even big, it's like 300 pages, but I was not ready for anything else. So I will not be continuing the series, which I don't stop series that often, especially popular ones, but I just can't do it. So for me, huge disappointment, considering that I thought this was going to be a favorite, and it really, really wasn't. So yeah, not a fan, like, at all. Like, the only reason it's not in my worst is because of level 2. How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. That one hurt my feelings a little bit. I do enjoy Matt Haig books quite a bit. He tend to have, like, they're very serious topic, but he makes them fun and almost light. And in this one, you're following this 41 or a man that looks like he's 41, yet he has lived for centuries, and he is still grieving the loss of his wife from like 300 years ago, and he's now like a teacher. And it sounded like it would be a fun story, but it was so incredibly dull. I was so bored. I actually ended up finishing it as an audiobook because I couldn't like physically sit down and read the book. Couldn't do it. So I had high expectations because I usually like his work, but this was not great. Like, do not recommend it whatsoever. Seems to be my word today. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I love her. I have read, this was my 3rd book by her basically, and I've read like 1 novella by her. So far I've enjoyed everything except this. I really enjoyed her romance. Like, I'm not a romance person, but I feel like I enjoyed that there's always a happy ending because she wanted to compensate for the fact that she never got hers, which once you know that, it's so sad, but it really, really works in her work. Her main male protagonists are usually very wholesome, and this story was all over the place. I know technically it was published after her death and it was rewritten a couple times, so probably herself wasn't a big fan of her own story. It was very confusing. The book is in like more than 1 part, and the second one, like, it feels like a completely different book, and that's where you get the gothic feels, which I had been told that were in there. But the main character is very frustrating to follow. She's very much of a pushover, and I just wanted to yell at her in the first half of the book. And then again, the story becomes something else completely, wraps up weirdly. I just was not a fan. I was very, very confused. But it all made a lot more sense once I watched the movie, which I usually don't recommend watching the movie first, or like, it's rare that I will find the movie better than the book, but I think that in this case, it would be my exception. So yeah, if you are not feeling the book, definitely pick up the movie instead. But it's definitely my least favorite book by her that I've read so far, which, by the way, if you are interested, keep an eye out because next year we're going to be starting a book club again, and there are going to be some classics, including 2 of hers. Sunreached by Brandon Sanderson and Janci Patterson. This is a novella between book 2 and 3 in the Skyward universe, and it's 200 pages. I'm currently reading the next one, and it's a YA sci-fi series, but this feels extremely YA. And not to be rude, but you can tell he's not the one that wrote it. Might have been his idea, but he definitely didn't write it. It felt so incredibly YA in the worst way possible, and you're following side characters, and it's like an awkward romance, and the only thing that is even a little bit enjoyable, it's all about the slug. Not to spoil anything. So I don't think it's a necessary read, like, at all. I'm currently reading the second one so I can read book 3, but the first one, if you don't want to read it, don't read it. It was a waste of 200 pages. I did not enjoy it whatsoever, and it just left me super disappointed because I'm always looking forward to reading more Sanderson, but yes, that's... no. Such a Quiet Place by Miranda. She's one of my go-to like cozy murder mystery author. I feel like usually her books are at least like a 3 stars. They're comfortable reads, and I like the cozy vibes of like small towns basically. And in this one, you're following the story on a small street in a small town, and it's like murder mystery. Someone was murdered, someone went to prison for it, came out, and then there's still like gossiping and things happening, and then, you know. I enjoyed the first half of the book, but I feel like the second half felt really rushed and badly written, and I feel like maybe the publication was too rushed. I don't know, I just was not happy with the direction of the book where it ended, but there was so much potential as her other books. So personally, if you are looking to read something by her, I wouldn't recommend that one. The ratings are not terrible on Goodreads, but personally, by far my least favorite book by her. But I will still pick up her next book next year, so hopefully things go well. Ooh, I almost forgot, The Lies of La Camora. Another adult fantasy I had been looking forward to reading forever. I had heard that it was about thieves and that there were great friendships. That's all I knew, which I agree. However, I knew nothing about the plot, and the plot is really not the important part of the story. You have to just like the characters, and the first half felt kind of painful to read. The only reason I pushed through were the flashbacks, which were intriguing, and eventually the story caught up and I got more interested. But like the plot, no interest, like none. It's just all about the characters. Their friendship is definitely the main thing that made me read the whole thing. I did have some strong feels of like Six of Crows in the sense that, you know how Kaz, everything goes a little too well for him? I had some similar vibes from this story. I do have book 2 on my shelf, which I might, well, I do want to eventually continue. I'm just not in a rush. I read this in January and I still haven't picked up book 2, so kind of gives you an idea. And technically, this one can be read somewhat of a standalone, so you don't have anything to lose if you do not enjoy it, basically. You can just put it down knowing that you don't have to finish the series. But yes, like I said, I do have book 2. I will be reading it eventually, but clearly I'm not in a rush. That's it. These are the most disappointing books that I have read throughout the year. Would love to hear your thoughts down below. I don't think it was my worst reading year ever in terms of like being really disappointed. I feel like last year was worse, or even some very passionate reviews in my past year, so I'll link that down below if you are interested. But yes, would love to hear your thoughts on all the books that I have mentioned, whether you have enjoyed them or not. We can complain together. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out. And I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye. Only you're the reason why I can feel those butterflies.